everybody. Welcome to 500 Open Tabs. I'm Hannah Hillam.
And I'm Kaveh Taherian, and today we are joined by a very special guest. This has been, dear Lord, almost years in the making. It's a crossover of the Kaveh cinematic universe. Today we have GI doctor and host of the House of Pod, which is a humor-adjacent medical podcast, and a fellow blacksmith, much like myself. Please welcome to the show, Dr. Kaveh Hoda, at long last.
It's like I'm having an out-of-body experience right now. I'm looking at a guy named Kaveh who looks not dissimilar to me.
I know, we're kind of similar looking.
You have like a beard. That's the one thing that I can't have a beard because of my job. I have to wear like surgical masks and that sort of thing. Otherwise, I would absolutely have a beard too. And it's bizarre. It's bizarre. Getting emails from Kaveh to Kaveh is weird. Being like, Kaveh, are you ready to do this thing? I'm like, sure, Kaveh. Am I talking to myself? It's so fucking weird.
I'm having a weird time.
Is it weird for you?
Yeah, because I've only ever met one Kaveh, and now I've met two. And the one guy I read about in the news, the one that like there was like a murderer named Kaveh or something.
You met our other friend, Kaveh Rostegar.
The guitarist or something.
Bassist, yeah.
Sorry.
We saw Rusty outside of Book of Mormon because he was playing bass on that show.
And I had watched it for musical explaining.
That's right, the last podcast.
Kaveh Rostegar and Kaveh, your Kaveh, and me, I've been trying to get us together for a podcast just called The Three Kavehs. Yeah. I don't know what it will be about, but I want so desperately to at least do a short run.
Probably Iran.
Something.
It would probably be an
that's too
Iranian
obvious. It has to be something totally random. Like it has to be like something about food or something. You know, like
the history of Cheese Whiz.
Oh my goodness, I could go on for hours.
Sick.
Greenlit.
So I have a question. I was going to ask you before, but how do you guys know each other?
Just the interwebs, Twitter.
Yeah, we just met. I think
just found each other.
If I remember correctly, there was one night during the lockdown, in the million days that we were all trapped at home, because Twitter was where I spent a lot of my time. That's how I kept myself from going insane, but ironically making myself more insane. And I think I went on a rampage being like, I wonder how many Kavehs are on Twitter that are like cool that I know about. So I went and added like all of them. Yeah. And Kaveh here was funny and responded, and he was very active on it. So we sort of became friends that way, and then grew from there.
Same.
Turns out it's got a podcast.
Same story. Same story. It's like there are so few Kavehs out there. It seems that once you start delving into it, and you're like, oh my god, there's more of us. We're everywhere.
More.
And it's a rare name.
We're all sort of interested in music. It's sort of an interesting thing. I can't figure that out. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because Persians in general like music. I don't know, but
I think so. It
sure felt that way online.
I always say that like the origin of our name, I think like kind of predisposes you to being like a bit of a person who will speak truth to power, and sort of. I think it really shapes how you see the world. So it would make sense that you would also fall into the arts or music.
I don't think our listeners know the origin of your names.
Oh, Kaveh, would you tell us the story of Kaveh the blacksmith?
Well, I will tell you the story.
Let's all sit around the campfire, children.
Yes, this is not a proper tab, but we'll consider this a mini tab at the beginning of our 3 mini tabs for this episode. But briefly, there was a king. His name is Zahak. Who? Sorry, let me back up real quick. So there's the Shahnameh, which is the Book of Kings, right? You're going to get me started. Hannah's laughing because she knows I'm going to go on for the next 45 minutes telling the story.
Let's do it. I love where this is going already.
Let's just change the entire trajectory of this podcast. I don't care. I'm boiling hot. I would just love to listen and not talk.
The Shahnameh is this very famous book that's about, the Book of Kings. It's actually one long poem technically. So it's about this king, and then his son takes over, and then there's this happens, and then this happens, and this happens. So it goes on forever and ever and ever. It's a very important cultural document for all Iranians. One of the stories within this, there is a king, his name is Zahak, who actually, I guess roughly makes a deal with like a demon or the devil, and he ends up having these snakes that pop up on his shoulders. And these snakes that are on his shoulders only eat brains of children.
What?
And yeah, literally, this is not a joke.
We had some dark fairy tales growing up.
Dark.
You thought Grimm's had it. With Persians, we did it weird.
Yeah.
So he
I'm realizing.
Basically everybody in the kingdom hates him, and he's like, oh no, why do people hate me for eating all their children's brains? And so Kava the blacksmith is like this humble blacksmith, and he's like, dude, like, you suck, you want to kill my son, I'm not into it. He's like, bro, let me tell you this. How about this? How about I don't kill your son, but you sign this paper that says that I don't suck? And Kava is like, eat shit, I will not do that.
Yes.
And he gets really angry, and then he leads a revolution. I can't remember what the son's name is. It's one.
I love how you're
sons...
making it really apply to like the younger generation. And then Kavi's like, no, that's hecka sus. I'm going to overthrow you. Peasants Revolution, no cap.
You're straight busting.
I think Kava the blacksmith was a true Sigma, is what they're saying now.
Oh yeah.
I know what that means. I know what that means.
Me too. An 11-year-old taught my daughter what that means, and she was like, "Mom, what's Sigma?" And I'm like, "I can't do this yet."
I'm not ready.
But real quick, just to finish up the story, the emblem that you've seen, Hannah, which I conveniently have right here, which is part of my logo for my business, which is called Blacksmith Pictures. That is the emblem that was on his blacksmith's apron. So what he does is he leads the revolution by taking his apron, putting it on a stick, holding it up in the air and hoisting it, and that becomes the flag and the symbol of revolution. And they overthrow Zahak. I forget what his name is. That was the estranged son of whoever. It wasn't Faridun. I can't remember who it was. Somebody was living in like was it Faridun?
Faridun, right? The mythical guy who was up in the mountain. He has to go grab him, this superhero character, and bring it down to help overthrow. Yeah, it's a whole cool story. I mean, eventually I'm expecting you, Kaveh, to make like a movie about it. I mean, at some point it has to happen. It's like,
I will, once I get those millions of dollars in funding that I've been known to get over and over again.
Any day now.
But anyway, yes, this is the origin of our name. But the real reason you're here, Kaveh, is that you are, again, it does sound weird. It sounds like I'm talking to myself.
Yeah. And we pronounce our names a little differently. That's the funny thing.
Yeah, I was going to say. I'm hearing two different pronunciations.
We do a little. I mean, it's because we don't know any of the Kavehs, so we have to make it up as we go along. So I say Kaveh like agave.
Yeah.
You say you have a little softer kava like agave.
I say it like agave. I think I always say cavocado is what I always tell people in terms of learning it. But it's more like Kaveh, as far as my experiences has been like when people who are non-Farsi speakers or non-Persian speakers are trying to say the name, but they can't say it, so they always say A. But technically, it's Kaveh. I feel like I'm Persian-splaining today now. Now I'm like, it's actually Kaveh. But I don't correct people when they say Kaveh.
What's the worst mispronunciation you've ever got of your name?
Oh, Kevin.
You get Kevin a lot? Both of you?
No. I just remember that was the one I would get in school sometimes, where like a teacher on the first day of class and they'd start reading rule, which obviously was always like they blaze through all the names and they get to my name and there'd be a long silence and then it would be like, Kevin?
I'm not even going to try and do this one. That's it.
Yeah.
I actually went, I mean, like, I think at some point I came home like in maybe early elementary school and I got beat up because there was like some sort of like Chuck Norris movie came out where he like kills Iranians. And so, like, someone found out my name.
All movies in the 80s, basically.
And my dad was like, you're going by Kevin now. So, actually, I went by Kevin for a long time until, like, the end of high school. I was, like, trying to get people to, like, call me by my real name. But they're like, no, dude, we've known you forever as Kevin. We're not. So, as soon as I went to college, I started using the name Kaveh again. But, like, still, if I go to my hometown, like, someone will come up to me and be like, hey, Kevin. I'll be like, who? oh, it's me. Oh, I forgot. That's me. So, yeah, Kevin is like a very common one. Yeah,
I haven't heard that name in 25 years.
That's so funny. That tells you the difference between the two of us is that would happen to me and my parents were like, you will not back down from the heritage of your name. Absolutely not. We will not. You will not change yourself to adapt to bullies. Friends. Screw them. Yeah.
No, my parents knew I couldn't fight. So they're like, this guy's not going to survive.
Yeah.
This kid's not going to survive unless we help him out here. So,
okay. So, quick question before we get into it: are you an open tab haver? Are you an open tab person? Are you a medical doctor in that you're clean and you don't do that?
You know, I try not to. Most of my medical tabs are medically related things, and then there is a good portion of like movie things I go down, and Wikipedia articles that I pull up. I do like to keep things closed. I'm a little OCD in that way. I like to close things down. But in like, if you look at my inbox, for example, my email inbox, there is a lot of things that I just haven't closed down. They're like junk mail I just leave open. So it looks like I have like 1 billion emails. Like, I know that stresses people out.
You guys are opposite.
Yeah, we are.
That is the opposite.
So that's kind of how I work. Yeah, I keep my workspace clean, but yeah, otherwise it can be a mess.
Oh,
I'd like to picture you during surgery, just being like, "How do I make the incision?" and like looking up that tab.
Where's the
before
small
you do it.
intestine?
Yeah,
you know, we do look. It is funny because sometimes we do have to look up things. I mean, we don't know every single thing, and sometimes there's like something you haven't seen in a long time. Like if there's like something really rare. Like you do look at, but you want your doctor to do that. Don't want your doctor to pretend they know everything, right? Yeah. But it is like, I'll have to be like, that is interesting. Give me 1 second. I'm going to look it up. But I will say this. I do know where to look it up. Like, I don't like look up like medical issues on the Hindustan
Facebook,
Times or Epoch Times or something like that. You know what I mean? I find like a good source. So, and I'll tell people, I'll be like, I have to look this up. Give me a moment. Or I'll like communicate with some expert in some other place that knows what they're talking about. But absolutely, I will look things up.
I always had a hunch.
Yeah. I mean, you want your doctor doing that. You want
I'm
your
glad.
doctor. Yeah.
Look, I also look up things constantly. I did see my doctor pull up Wikipedia once, and I was like, you know what? More power to her.
Yeah,
she'll look up things while we're on the show. It's great.
I'm not allowed to anymore.
I don't know about looking up Wikipedia, though. That's my...
He can see me. He's like, don't look it up. And I'm like, how did you know? He sees my hand like...
Your hands are moving like this,
yeah, like,
typing something up.
I zone out and I like reach over here. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Anyway,
okay. So you are, as our guest, and as this is a traditional Persian podcast, we let the guests go first. Because
No, you first. No, please, you first.
Taraf nakon.
No, taraf nakon dige. Sorry, Hannah. I'm so sorry.
It's like, oh no, we're going to be here all day.
No, it's funny because like, it's the same. I'm the same way. I'm the same way.
You are.
So you are
We're
Persian.
culturally very similar. This is part of how we
bonded. Hannah June.
Hannah
June. Sort of Persian. Hannah June.
That's almost my name. My middle name's Jane. So
there you go.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. I am ready to go. I do have something.
All right. Good.
Okay,
I'm glad you got something.
I'm super excited to talk about this movie Bloodsport.
No.
What? No,
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I heard that you did an episode.
Kicked me out. I was like, no, start over. I can't do this.
I did hear that you had an episode on, but I am curious. What happens? Have you guys? Because you guys didn't check with me beforehand. Like, what have you guys had someone do the same thing?
Mm-mm.
No, it's never happened. Actually, I mean, we're only about 20. This is episode 26, so
yeah, it'll happen.
It might. It'll happen at some point. Yeah,
might be kind of cool actually to hear like a different perspective of it. Yeah. So,
yeah.
But that's not what I did.
Okay.
Mine is based on something that was a little bit weirdly personal. I got a text message a couple weeks ago, and it kind of led me down a little bit of a wormhole. And I'm excited to share this with you.
Yeah.
So I got a text from a number I didn't recognize, which is not uncommon. I have a new phone. I have lots of people whose numbers I just didn't save. And it said, because I live in San Francisco, I'm planning a hike on the GG Golden Gate Bridge. Do you still live in SF? Now, I'm like, I saw this. I'm like, 90%, 99% positive this is bullshit. That this is some sort of scam. Yeah. This is some sort of
hike
fun.
the Golden Gate Bridge.
No, you don't even
Famously
go on
flat.
it.
Right.
Just avoid it.
It's a bridge, so it's flat. But I thought, I do have people who are from other countries whose English is not that spectacular in my life.
It's true.
And it is possible they meant the Golden Gate Park. And so normally when I get these sorts of texts, I don't respond. But I was like, I'm a little curious. So I just text, sorry, who is this? Mm-hmm. The response I got back is, Lisa? ? I'm Annie. We met while hiking the Hollywood sign last month and exchanged phone numbers. Did you forget it? And I thought, okay. Absolute bullshit at this point.
Yeah.
Because first of all, I'm not going to be hiking. I'm not doing the Hollywood sign. Like if they had said we met at Zenku's Chicken or something, I'd be like, maybe.
That was me.
Well, I'm strictly a Runyon person. I don't do the sign.
So clearly at this point, I think it's a spam, some sort of con, but I don't know. So I post it on Twitter and I'm like, what's the scam here? And people in multiple posts respond to me with a link to a Wikipedia site called Pig Butchering Scam. Have you guys heard of the pig butchering scam?
I'm so excited. Okay.
This is not halal.
No, this is not halal. It is certainly not kosher. And you're going to get into some weird stuff here. Okay. So
my favorite.
Hannah's so excited.
I'm trying to contain myself. You said the word butchering and pig. I'm just excited.
Yeah,
I don't love killing animals, but it's fun to read about.
Right, it is interesting. People are very upset by the name. I'm also like, that is how we get bacon, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's how we get all of this.
Bacon.
So essentially, it's a long con. It's a long-term scam in which the victim is gradually over time fattened up, quote unquote, fattened up, and that means like they grow comfortable with the person, you grow connection with this person,
like and groomed almost
groomed in a way. Yeah. But the point here is to get increasing contributions from the victim to this fraudulent cryptocurrency scheme. Of course, it has to be crypto, right?
Always, yeah.
So here's the basic rundown. The scammer initiates some sort of contact via online social media, like a dating app or sending a wrong text message like, Harry, let's move our flight to 5. And then you're like, who? I'm sorry, you have the wrong number. Or, hey, where are we meeting for lunch again? Or maybe they know a little.
Chicken.
Exactly. Now that would have absolutely worked on me.
Excellent place to go for lunch.
I'm already there.
Yeah, exactly. I don't see you here.
So they might know a little bit about you. They might know a lot. It kind of depends. So once the host or the scammer finds a suitable target, the proverbial pig, they stay in constant contact. They text every day. They kind of know what you want to hear. They're really good at this. They have guides and they have these algorithms. They have these things that tell them exactly what to say. They have like a script that they can go off, but they're very good at this. And what you're going to learn more about in this process is that it's a very elaborate scheme. And it's not like a simple like guy sending out like Nigerian prince scam. This is a little bit more elaborate than that.
I hope the Nigerian prince is doing well, whatever he's up to now. I know he's stopped looking for people to help him get his money out. I hope he's actually got his money out finally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Self-actualization, therapy.
How is that guy? So this is the thing about this is that they'll get your trust and they'll get a lot of money from their victims. And it's not necessarily too unique or original a scam, but there is something to it that is very different and really is what has stepped this scam up and has made it $1 billion and multiple billions of dollars lost every year because of the scam. It's because there is something where it really changes. Now, most scams, they get you to be like, okay, give me money and I will invest it for you, or I will take care of it for you. I will grow it. They play on people's either sympathy or more likely they play on somebody's greed. But the thing here that makes it different is that they don't actually have you give them money. They say, I'm using this cryptocurrency app. I'm using this thing here, and it's really making me a lot of money. You should also do it. Don't give it to me. Give it to this app. So they build these apps, these cryptocurrency apps. They'll build an actual app. It looks really good. And it looks like a very legitimate app. And they might even create like online reviews for the app. So if you double check it, it actually looks like it's a real app. Now, even worse than that.
It's just an intermediary that they're just dumping the money into. It's like a it's like a fake building, but a fake app.
And they make the apps themselves and they run it themselves. This group, but I'll explain more about the people behind this.
They could just make a regular app and like do a regular business.
They're like, these scams have been going really well. Right. Maybe we should leverage it into actual crypto now and make money for everybody.
Maybe we should. Okay,
we have web developers. Why can't we just like have them do something
You're
real?
Halfway there. Yeah, exactly.
Here's the robbery. We get a job at the bank. Any job.
Exactly. And we worked there for 20 years.
20 to 30 years. Anyways, so what they'll actually do that's even worse is they'll get like a real app like MetaTrader, which is a real well-known like cryptocurrency app, but they'll build a plugin for the app, like a tool that you download that therefore they can control, and they can control these numbers to it. So they get you to be like, they'll do something to be like, hey, I gotta let you in on a secret. My family owns this app, or my family is really well known for cryptocurrency, and I like you a lot, and so I want you to make money too. You deserve to make money. You deserve to be doing more with your life. And so
I would never fall for that, because I'm like, I don't deserve anything. You're lying. If you knew me, you'd know I wouldn't respond to that, because I know better.
Exactly.
Right. So this is what they'll do. They'll get the victim to join. They'll simulate some trade so it actually looks like they're making money.
Genius.
And they encourage them to put more and more money in. So they're pretty much convinced that this is working. They're seeing that on the app that they're making money, and they're getting fattened, so to speak. And then at some point, the victim tries to withdraw their money, and they say, okay, well, there is this large tax you have to pay. And that's kind of a weird thing because it's too high. And so this is essentially just one last fleecing, because then you pay them like the whatever money, because people are losing millions in this, and they'll be like,
millions?
Millions.
Like per person?
Per person. Not everyone. I mean, this game could run from thousands and millions, but yeah, up to millions of dollars. And they'll be like, okay, well, you've earned $1 million, but the tax is $300,000, which is crazy steep. But people are like, oh, well, I'm still making $700,000.
30%.
They pay that, and then they never get their money back. It's all gone. It's all gone. It disappears into the ether because it's all on this blockchain. And who the hell knows what the hell the blockchain is all about? I mean, I certainly don't understand the blockchain. So then it's gone. And this is happening all across the world. It's happening to people in the U.S. And the FBI has sort of looked into this, and they've seen that at least $2 to $3 billion of American money is lost this way. But you have to remember, this is an incredible underestimation, because most people aren't even going to say when they've lost money.
Yeah, they're too embarrassed by it.
I'd be too ashamed. Like, that's boomer behavior right there.
I was going to ask you too, like,
that.
Kava, how much money have you invested so far?
Yeah,
only about $300,000. I'm not rich. I'm a doctor. I'm not like techie like the rest of these people.
You're still going to make like $100,000.
I'm going to be the one to get it.
It doesn't work. I've outsmarted these guys. I have a plan.
You have a plan.
Have a plan.
Nice.
You're going to get a lot of people in your downline, and then they're going to definitely get more people in their downline.
That's exactly right. Speaking of which, you two, I have an offer for you that you
actually
are going
why we're here on the podcast.
Again, I'm from Utah. I'm immune to MLM pitches. I'm immune.
That's
right. That's all they have.
Well, yeah.
I see. Okay.
They're all based there, and I know exactly
what
one of my old. Oh yeah, one of my old high school
friends. That's
friends.
the tax laws, right?
Well, and there's a whole reason. I can get into it some other time, but. When I always know when a friend is like, "Hey, Hannah, what's up?" I'm like, "Nope."
We did not go on a hike in the Hollywood Hills.
High school theater, and I'm not talking to you now.
Yep. I'm very suspicious. I
don't want your lip gloss that stays on all day. I can find my own. Oh, I'm really mad at MLMs.
All day.
Yeah, I don't. Thank goodness for that training. I'll never fall for an MLM.
Well,
we'll see.
It's interesting because it all takes place in Southeast Asia, which is sort of like the Utah of Asia. That's how I see it. It kind of started.
Exact.
I mean, you think about it. If you think about it, so anyways, it kind of started in China in around 2019, 2020, and then
it's fairly recent. Yeah.
Then gone into Southeast Asia, where gangs in Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar run very corporate-like structures, huge. So. It's interesting. You might be wondering like why this all happened. It all kind of started, at the height of the COVID pandemic, because there was these huge gambling centers, these huge gambling towns. Like I have to read this because I'm going to get it wrong. Sihanoukville, Cambodia. I apologize to any Cambodian listeners. So it was like a really at one point prosperous gambling town, but then people stopped gambling and going to casinos during COVID-19. Right. So casinos are not wants to lose money. They want to find a way to pivot. They pivoted. So these became huge scam operation centers where they really increasingly use these integrated, sophisticated techniques, creation of fake online investment platforms. Lots of work goes into it. And people were really lonely at the time. People were looking for any sort of like connection to the world.
We all
and
did weird things in 2020.
I met another Kaveh.
I tried to talk to the birds in my backyard. And that's what I did. That was my 2020.
That's not a bad strategy. If they're crows, it's absolutely
they were
worth
crows, and they did not want anything to do with me. So.
It is so disheartening that people don't just rob people face to face anymore. Like, listen, the internet's ruined everything. Yeah. Just stab me in person. Yeah.
Millennials have ruined the robbing industry.
They have. I want to be on a horse, and I want to be held at gunpoint and robbed by highwaymen. That's what, like the good old days.
This used to be a proper rap country.
I want to say one thing. I honestly believe there is a scam for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want any listeners of this thinking I look down upon people that are getting scammed by this pig butchering scam, because there is a scam for everybody. Just like I feel like there's an addiction for everybody. Yeah. And if you're not addicted to something, you're just lucky enough that you haven't been exposed to it.
Yeah.
But same thing goes for scams. Like, I feel like there is a scam that will get everybody, no matter how savvy you are. And even the most internet savvy people have fallen for it. I have a couple of examples here that I can go through. This is kind of one of the biggest ones. In 2023, there was a tri-state bank in Kansas, Elkhart, Kansas. Did you guys hear about this bank by chance in Elkhart, Kansas? Probably not.
No.
It went under. Completely lost everything because the CEO, Shan Haynes, was embezzling money up to $47 million from the bank to secure his own funds because he had been pig butchered.
You don't want that guy. I was going to say, how do you get people who have like $1 million, $2 million to sink into this? That's crazy.
Yeah. And also, I don't understand how banks work. How is that possible? That seems like it shouldn't happen, right? Like,
I don't think
guy,
banks make sense.
Yeah. It does show you how like ridiculous the banking system is, that one guy could crush the whole bank. So anyways, he's been charged.
Insane.
He's
how
been
do
charged
I do
in federal
that?
court. I don't know. That's the job to get. Well, it didn't end well for him. So he was charged in federal court with embezzlement, pled guilty in May. His sentencing is scheduled for August 8th. And he has like a maximum of 30 years in prison, a maximum fine of $1 million, and he has to pay $60-something million in restitution, which I don't know how that happens. But he met someone on WhatsApp, and
there you go. Yeah. Clearly, this is why this man is the head of the bank, because there's nothing more credible than that.
And so basically, he had to make 11 transfers from scammers during this process. And this is like not a dumb guy. You think he's the CEO of a bank? Like,
no.
Anyways, my point is, it can happen to you guys. It can happen to anyone.
Question.
Yes.
All of our head of bank listeners.
What would we fall for? What would we all fall for? I think I would fall for a scam that would be like, this is anti-MLM. Come join our anti-MLM MLM. I think that's what I would fall for.
That's pretty good. Like, we're fighting MLM. Donate to this thing. Yeah.
Next thing I know, we've moved to an island, and I'm like referring to them as like,
for me,
leader.
that's how they would get me too. It would be like some sort of like, there's children who are, starving in this war-torn part of the world, and they would show me a picture of it, and I honestly, my kids know, like, every time we're watching TV and the commercial for Shriners Hospital shows up, I start tearing up when they show like the sick kids, and my kids look at me and they just laugh. They're like, "You're gonna give them money now, aren't you?" I'm like, "Yep." They get me every fucking time, and they're at some point, Shriners itself was like, "Hey, you contribute a lot. Why don't you just do this monthly plan?" I'm like, "No, I refuse to." They're like, "But you're pretty much paying more as it is right now, just so you know, and you can get a free shirt." I'm like, "No, stop."
I don't want a Shriners shirt.
Yeah, right.
Maybe
they
a
get
hat.
me every time. That's how you would get me.
I think. Listen, for me, the honest answer is I don't have any money to be scammed out of. So basically, no one's ever going to get me for anything.
They get you for your time, man. They get you
for my time. That's true. Some scammer will call me and say they're having a hard day, and then I'll be angry, but I will still talk to them for like an hour and a half as I try to talk them.
That's the polite thing to do. Yeah,
exactly, because I'm too impolite to tell them to like go to hell.
Well, you guys are both artists, though, is the thing.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like people are scamming you constantly by like doing this. So like, well, you do this art and it's good for your like reputation.
Exposure.
You get your exposure and credit, etc. IMDb credits for this role, which you're not going to get paid for. So I feel like you guys are getting scammed.
That's true. That's actually a good point.
You're right. Kind of constantly, especially now AIs come around. Everyone's like, yeah, look, I made my own art. And it's like,
totally.
No, that's not art.
Listen, when I first started in the film industry, my thinking was you get a meal, you get a credit, and then you're not spending money that day. That was how I justified it. So I was getting swindled for sure. Because it used to be like meals, copy, credit is when you first come in and you have no experience. People are like, we're not going to hire you. So you have to kind of eat shit and work for free. And I was like, all right, I'm not spending money on lunch. I'm not spending money on the day and I'm getting a credit. That was the only way I was able to justify it to myself.
Whoa.
Yeah. See, you poor bastards. Tell you, it's for everybody.
How do I become a doctor? It's too late for me. If I were a doctor, I'd be immediately fired. What?
No, Hannah, it's not that hard. Look, if
Please
I can
tell
do
me
it,
that.
you can do it. Trust me, it's totally doable.
Listen, just Wikipedia,
you have to put in a certain amount of time. You have to put in a certain amount of time. That's
I had like a solid 2.0 GPA. Does that count for something?
Diversity.
You
don't want every.
They need a ADHD college dropout to cut open somebody's
mix it
brain.
Up. Not all medicine is cutting into people. Okay,
why not?
Why not?
Oh, okay. Yeah. You're right.
You could be a medical illustrator. How about that?
My friend did that.
Oh,
yeah.
See? Bada
I
bing.
draw cartoons.
Do you have to go to med school for that? Yeah.
You have to take a bunch of anatomy.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, that's so. Oh,
no, you have to take like a ton of anatomy classes and like learn about medical stuff.
We took a lot of anatomy classes anyway. It's funny. Right. I have a cousin who's an acupuncturist who like talks to me about anatomy. He's like, "How do you know all this shit?" And I'm like, "Because we had to study it for years. So much human anatomy when you have to learn how to draw every muscle and bone and how it contracts and expands and supinated and pronated and all that business."
Did you work with cadavers or just like actual live models?
We had live models and then we had skeletons. But that was not art related. I think that was just a fun thing that you were doing on the side. I
snuck in. There was like literally no locks on the doors, and I was like, I actually how far I can go. I went far.
You need to get out of the cemetery, lady.
You've been arrested for this 4 times already. Oh no, I did go to a cadaver lab, and it was the first time I saw a human penis. That's a different story.
Wait, hold on.
The first time you saw it? Okay, this is before you were married, I assume.
Oh, yeah. I was like young. I was too young to be in a cadaver lab.
Because I'm going to say either there's something wrong here. Either you were far too young to be in a cadaver lab or it took you a long time to, which is okay. There's no shame in that. Yeah. No shame in that.
No. It was the young part. I was 15. It was too young.
Probably a little too young. Probably a little too young.
And I almost passed out because, I can't even tell this story. I can't tell this story. It's too much.
Did you pass out if you tell the story?
No, it just, they like lifted. I can't tell. You'd be okay with it, but I can't.
This guy went to med school. He knows. Yeah, he's seen dead bodies. You're not going to gross me
out. They were like, yeah, check this out. They've lifted like the entire stomach up because it was just the torso. Yeah. And they lifted it up and the penis was attached and it was just like flopping
around. Is that how they normally work?
No, and I was like, whoa. And then I looked down. Yeah, it's always how they look. I looked down and saw all the like guts and fat. And that's when I was like, can't see anymore. Oh, I'm falling over.
Yeah, that's a lot. Boy, they didn't ease you into that experience. Then
they handed me half a human head. Anyway,
half
your nightmares for the rest of your life.
Her name was Elaine.
Okay. Elaine! Hello, Hannah. Remember me?
It should just have like an eyeball falling out.
Yeah. Is it the left half? Is it the top half? How was the head split?
It was like this. I held her right side of her head, and I was just like passing it along to the next kid because we were 15.
Did you hear her like in your nightmares be like, "Come play with me, Hannah. Come play with me"?
No, but it did really upset me.
I could see why.
I was the only one who was like, I didn't like this because no one else had the guts.
Good for you. Well, they had those guts there on the table.
They did. We all did hold a bunch of guts. I held a liver.
They did have those guts. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So
I'm so sorry.
It's a scam artist.
I have more pig butchering data before I close up here. I looked up just different stories about it, and some of these I'm going to read just from the articles I got them from. So.
Okay.
PJ Jenkins doesn't fit the profile of the average fraud victim. The 57
Not like other girls.
The 57-year-old retired cop knew all about scams when he matched with a woman called Alice on the dating app. So first of all, I'm like, okay, hold on. We're giving cops a lot of credit here.
A lot of credit.
A lot of credit.
Yeah.
But soon
Speaking
after,
of dropouts.
yeah, soon after, Alice fleeced the Atlantic City man for $15,000. It's the imperceptible way that pig butchering works. Even an experienced police officer can fall prey to this insidious long game. Which
in that case, pig butchering has a different name, which I think is very funny.
Yeah. Oh,
nice.
yeah.
Here's a couple other examples. So, 52-year-old woman named Cy, I'm assuming that's not her real name, met a woman called Jessica. Sorry, 52-year-old man named Cy met a woman called Jessica online. He was already at a low point. Over a few months, the Bay Area man, one of our own, built a relationship with Jessica, sharing news about his dying father and how he felt alone and under pressure to support his family.
No.
But here's what's so fucking evil, because they play on those feelings. So Jessica weaponized his feelings, convincing him to invest in cryptocurrency to help his family. As she ensnared Cy, he sank over $1 million into her fabricated investment platform. Much of that had been borrowed from his friends and family.
Oh no!
It's very true. So first of all,
that's so painful. I can't.
Yeah.
So listeners, be very wary of anyone who love bombs. You guys know what love bombing is?
Oh yeah.
When someone showers all that affection, like that Tinder swindler show on Netflix. Did you ever watch that? About the guy who pretended he was like the son of like a famed Russian Israeli diamond oligarch. Anyways. Love bombing. Beware of love bombing. Beware of anyone talking to you about cryptocurrency. I think that's just a standard. Like, I mean, my butthole gets a little tight anytime someone starts talking about cryptocurrency.
I shut down. I was like, oh no.
If you start texting someone new and they very quickly get into like big topics like ambitions, goals, encouraging you to do more with your life, red flag. If anyone online tries to get you to download a different app or something else, or a plugin for an app that exists, just run from it.
Literally, just leave your house and run.
Run away. Leave your phone at home.
The last thing is this. Here's what makes this sort of a tough subject, because you want to hate and ridicule the scammers when they get to you. But the truth of it is, so I looked into this a little bit more, and my friend who is a journalist in Myanmar, he works in Myanmar, and a guy named James Stout led me down this to some new articles that I saw about this. The thing is, a lot of these people that are there in these factories and these enterprises are really victims themselves.
Oh yeah,
they're people who are stuck there. They're lured there with some false business promises. They've even gone through interviews. It seems totally legit. They get there. Their passports are taken. It's essentially human trafficking, like real human trafficking. I know Republicans like to talk about human trafficking all the time, but this is like a real case of it. Yeah. So like, and there's thousands of people that are stuck there, and they're even at risk of like violence if they don't do what they're supposed to do. So it's very hard. It's very hard. It's also tied into some of the a big part of the finances and the economic system of these countries. Half of Cambodia's GDP is thought to be due to pig butchering scams.
What?
Whoa.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, I don't know. It's hard to prove these things because there's no records, obviously.
Right.
They're a big part, and there's all these gray areas between like the illegal practices and the legal system, and oftentimes the police are being paid off for this process. So it is a very challenging situation. I don't know if there's a great answer to fix it other than, places like WhatsApp, Facebook, etc. They have to be more involved and more knowledgeable about what's happening and try to stay involved. But yeah, it's so that's pig butchering. That's the pig butchering scam. I almost got pig butchered. I didn't. I was lucky this time. But next time they may get me. They
might.
That's true. They're like, we're from the Shriners Association or something. Trying to get you to
pig butcher.
They got a Shriner app.
Exactly. They'll make one. It's so easy to do.
It really is very easy to make an app. You just get like five good people to do it.
Yeah,
like,
and they have a whole like business behind them. So anyways, that's the pig butchering app. I hope that helps people, and I hope nobody here falls for any scam ever, but you probably will.
Did you just end up like just cut them off? You just didn't respond? Did you say like, don't contact me? How did you end it?
So my friend, who's much more knowledgeable about Myanmar, the civil war, and all the strife there, responded. He was like, why don't you say this? Chit Duis is a traitor to the people of Myanmar. I didn't know what that meant.
Oh, what does it mean?
I assume it's a very deeply like political thing that they would only get if they were there in Myanmar.
Yeah.
And I did that because I'm a lunatic.
Yeah.
Don't do that, people. Just delete and block the number. I did that, and there was no response. So I think they knew that I was on to them.
They knew that you figured it out.
But there are people who do funny things. I have to say, even though I feel bad for the people who are doing the scamming, I do love to see when people scam the scammer or respond with funny things. That's like the best. And you can go online,
it's fun,
and you can see a bunch of funny things about like how people respond to that.
There's like a bunch of Twitter accounts that are like, here's all these responses.
Yeah, exactly.
I almost fell for a scam. I got they had mimicked a business tax form for my small business. And I was like, oh, I thought I already paid business taxes. Okay, maybe I didn't, because, I don't remember anything ever.
Yeah.
And so I open it up and I start like doing it. And then I was like, hold up. This doesn't feel right. And I'd like examined the letter. There was misspellings. It looked like it had been scanned. It looked like it had been like blown up a little bit. It was immediately a scam. I was like, oh, scam. I'm so glad I know what pixels look like, because now I can tell this is not a real image. This is not a real paper. It's just an image. Anyway, I've tracked it back, and there's this place in like Santa Ana that like they put this like non-existent address as the return address for these things. Yeah. And I found that, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, good. I almost paid a lot of taxes to nobody.
No, for sure. Just this morning, I got this text here from someone saying that my Fast Track Express lane had an extra bill on it. And it looks super legit. The website that they want to send me to looks like legit. But, I mean, the phone that they send it to me is not attached in any way to our Fast Track, which is the little pass that we use in the Bay Area to go into like the carpool lane. So it's really, I mean, I don't know how we're going to, I don't know what to do.
It's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse.
I've decided that's how they're going to get me, because I usually do have some sort of
late
bridge toll that I forgot. Yeah, that's how that's the one. That's the one.
Yeah. Oh, that's scary.
Well, thank you so much. That was fascinating.
Yeah, thank you for the tab.
Yeah, I learned a lot from it myself. Yeah.
Yeah, same. I did think it was going to be about pigs, but I'm glad it was not about real pigs dying and just about people getting ripped off.
Yeah, it's better, I guess.
I don't know. I don't know what's better.
Yeah.
I don't think anything's good.
No, everything's bad. Everything's bad. Everyone's upset.
Every time we record this, we're like, how are you? Not great. We're not great. Nothing's great.
Things are awful.
Would it be
I
weird?
think with all this whatchamacall, all this deep fake stuff and AI stuff, it's just going to get so much worse.
Yeah.
Because it's just going to be pulling from what you already have and what you've already been exposed to. So it's like pulling from your own memory of something and then recreating something with it.
That is so scary.
It's super scary.
As artists, I'm sure you talk about this all the time, but I mean, AI art as of now still doesn't seem to be that good to me. But how do you guys feel? Do you guys actually feel like do you guys feel like as artists you have to learn how to use it? Or do you guys just say, no, you're going to hold off on incorporating it as long as you possibly can?
Do you want to go first, or should I?
I was like, this is probably like a 10-hour rant on my part.
Sorry. We'll save it for my podcast.
No,
I was
going to say, Hannah, you can go. I'll try and be very concise, but you go ahead.
I'm so sick of it. I hate those stupid, shiny, dumb little things. Little cats that have huge eyes, and they put them on all these products, and it's like, hire real artists. But besides that, I do think there might be somewhere that it could work. So like, let's say I need to draw a brick wall, and I don't want to draw a brick wall, but I could generate a brick wall from my style, drawing from my own, like having it come from my own stuff. That's literally the only thing I can think of. Is like to help me finish a tedious picture. But other than that, I don't know. It's hard because in the Bay Area, I talk to people and they're like, well, what's wrong? Why don't you like it? And it's like, it just all comes out as anger, and nobody takes me seriously because I'm so angry. So there's mine.
It is terrible looking though, for the most
It's
part.
awful.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay. Wow.
I mean, it's early
It's
too,
so
right?
ugly.
Well,
Yeah. It is
If
ugly.
I see
It's
another
terrible.
Pikachu with like 6 arms and big, huge eyes, like advertising for some stupid online game, I'm gonna kill something.
Yeah, that's fair.
A pig. I'll kill a pig.
would
Pig
butcher a
and
pig.
slaughter it.
Yeah.
I share the same level of rage and anger, but again,
More
knowing
calmly.
this river, no, not at all.
No.
I'm more like I will not open. Like it will just be a flood that will take
Yeah,
over,
I got
much
you.
like
Keep
Johnstown.
keeping
So I'm-
Pandora's box shut.
I'm like
yeah.
I'm torn between wanting to scream for the next hour and then also
Mm-hmm.
feeling like I should make sure that this podcast continues at a reasonable rate where we actually get to talk about
Understood.
everything. So
Someone has
I'm
to
going to let
secure
that
here. It's
supersede.
not me.
However, I will say angry, also not a Luddite, not against technology, not convinced that the people creating technology in this way have any interest in what they're trying to espouse. And I think that they're all just flim-flam men who are trying to make themselves money, but they're where it's literally no different than like a snake oil salesman from the early 1900s. So I think at the very least, the most positive way of looking at it on my part is to say like, okay, are you interested in this? Get somebody who's interested in
Knows
this
what they're
as a
doing.
technology and knows what they're doing
Yeah.
and has a vested interest in it succeeding in a way that benefits you
Yeah.
know the humanity at large rather than just some asshole who's trying to get their stock price to go up.
In AI, in a way, AI art is essentially
that's
theft
theft.
because someone's copying someone's art. I see. Yeah.
People
Okay.
have found their signatures
Yeah.
in other people's art.
Yeah.
Mm,
I more
wow.
specifically with theft, I think it's a licensing issue is more
Yeah.
than what it is, more than anything else. But again,
Okay.
we
Sorry,
will.
sorry. I had to.
No,
I had to
don't
ask, yeah.
apologize. It's
We
a
love-
hygiene
I-
issue for.
I love
Yeah.
talking about this.
You bring a
We love getting angry
podcaster
about
onto
it.
your show, I'm going to ask you questions. I can't
I-
stop.
I like
can't
it.
Stop.
You're another podcaster. Yeah, you've asked a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. It's
I know.
nice to have another Kava who asks questions.
That's what we do, Hannah. That's what we do.
That's how we
Uh-huh.
roll.
We podcast and we ask questions.
And we
I'm
ask.
seeing
Anyway,
that now.
thank you for your tab. Well
Yeah,
done.
thank you.
Okay, so
Okay, yeah.
my tab is an article from it's Bedouin.org, and
Oh.
the title of the article is "Keeping Up with Khordadian: The Life and Times of the King of Iranian Dance." So,
Whoa.
Kaveh, I don't know. I saved this one for when you were going to be on because I assumed you would have some familiarity with him. But
None.
am I
No,
none?
and I feel like such a piece of shit now. I'm so sorry.
No, not at all.
You don't deserve that name.
It's really funny. I just did not expect that. Is what's so funny. Okay,
No, tell me more. I want. What's the name again?
Khordadian. Mohammad
I might know
Khordadian
who
was his
this
name.
is.
Yeah, Hannah might know. Okay, so I'm going to be
Second
telling you
word.
both. This is actually
Yeah.
this is exciting. This is a different kind of story that I get to tell now. Okay, so I guess now we need a little bit of context. So before we really get into this, but Mohammad Khordadian was this he is the absolute OG of OG Persian memes. Like before the term meme even entered our collective lexicon, this is the guy. Every single Persian person who lived stateside in the 80s, with the exception of Kaveh, it sounds like, has seen this man.
I might know who he is, but I don't know.
You might
name.
know-
By the way, your Farsi is so much better than mine. Holy heck! I feel like it's so good. I don't know. He gets the khs and the riz and the riz better than me.
Hold
So
on,
much-
before we get into this, I'm just gonna send Kaveh a picture so let's see if he knows if he's seen this before I send it to Hannah.
Sure.
Do you recognize this man
Is it
in
the
this
chat?
outfit? I'm just texting it to you. Yeah,
Okay.
this
I am
might
pulling
have
up-
you might understand who I'm talking about if you've seen this image before.
Okay, absolutely. Now I know who this.
There
Okay.
you go. Yes. See, I was like, there's no way you wouldn't have seen this guy before.
Can I give a slight context here too, though?
Go ahead,
Before we
yeah.
get into this guy,
Yeah.
I am very much a Northern Californian Iranian.
Yeah.
And Northern Californian Iranians are very different in many ways from Southern Californian Iranians. Now,
It's true.
Hannah, if I can make it more Persian,
Hannah June.
Go for it.
Hannah Jun. You know,
Thank you.
the thing about Persians is they will go to a place and then they will not only adapt to that place, they will take whatever it is that makes that place to an extreme. So if you put a Persian guy in the Midwest, he's going to have a truck. He's going to have the blondest wife. He's going to play on the football team and maybe the wrestling team. If you put him in Northern California, like myself,
Tech.
become crunchy, liberally, maybe tech. But that's sort of like what happens there. And we're kind of separate from that. If you put them in LA, they're going to be the most LA. They're going to have the nicest cars. They're going to dress really nice. They're going to get into the weirdest fashion of the time and probably something to do with TV and or movies. That is kind of how it works. We go to whatever place and we just take it to the next level.
I love that.
We're very extra.
So this guy is very extra. I've seen this meme. It is a very famous meme. I'll let Kaveh Major. I'll let Kaveh Major take over.
Kaveh Major.
That's really Kaveh Minor.
Oh.
It's very exciting that I was like, there's no way you wouldn't know this. I was like, it's impossible.
I've seen the meme.
Yes.
I think I think this sounds familiar to me too. This is maybe you've shown me.
I might have shown it to you before. So basically every single Persian person who lived stateside in the 80s has seen this man dancing in his Foot Locker sales associate uniform on Jama Jam or whatever international channel they had in your town. And like, I cannot overstate this. Like, this man it's just burned and it's just seared into our collective memories. And there's a reason for this. But first, a little backstory about the man, the myth, the legend of Mohammad Khordadian. So, Hannah, I'm just going to send you a quick clip of the video so that you have a little context about what we're talking about.
Okay.
And we can maybe try and splice this into the YouTubes. And Kaveh, I sent it to you as well, just so you can see it for all. Yeah, you remember
I've
this?
seen this. I think you might have shown this to me.
I'm probably the one who showed it to you at some point.
Let's see. Yep. Yeah, you showed me this.
Okay.
This guy's amazing.
He is the best. Legend.
Look how he comes walking out.
Yep.
That's Riz. That's
exactly.
Riz.
Look at him. Yeah. You know why you showed me this is because I was surprised that there was such a huge dancing culture.
Oh, my Lord.
And you were like, all we do is dance. Have you heard of this guy?
Literally all we do.
Stop.
Yeah.
We can't stop with the dancing. It's a thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to say this. I'm watching the video now, and because where I grew up, we didn't have a Persian channel. There might have been one on satellite, but my parents didn't have it. So I've actually never seen anything outside of the meme. I'm actually watching him dance. Yeah, so this is my first time watching him dance. And bros can dance. He's good. Yeah, he's...
Those hips, man. What
in the world? Hips. They don't lie.
No.
They do not lie.
I'll just say dancing for Persian men is a big part of the culture. There's like certain...
I love that.
Like, I know like a lot of cultures of like men are like, oh, I don't want to dance and it's not masculine. But Persian men like love to dance. It is, and if you don't dance, it's kind of considered a little bit questionable.
Yeah,
really?
I mean, at least not publicly, which is also part of like a big part of what this story's about. So let me give a little context because, again, our listeners probably have no idea what we're talking about.
No.
So
his face, the looks he's giving.
Yeah. So in case you hadn't heard, back in 1979, there was an Islamic revolution and the Shah of Iran was overthrown.
Just a little one. Just a tiny one.
Khomeini took his seat as the head of state, declaring himself the supreme leader, which I thought was a missed opportunity because he could have done it like Taco Bell and called himself Leader Supreme, but that's a story for another day.
Way better.
As you can imagine, this was a very dark and uncertain period in the country's history. And at that time, Iranian television, meaning television in Iran, used to only broadcast like revolutionary propaganda, essentially. They had taken over the airwaves and were making sure that they were only pumping that out. Occasionally, they would play Nick at Night from like 9 to 11, and you'd watch repeats of... No, I'm joking. It's not real.
I was so excited. I was like, that's awesome. How did they do that?
There was a brief moment where I was like, there could be some weird reason for that. Like maybe
like how like Soviet Russia,
I Love Lucy. Yeah.
Every once in a while would like show a certain movie that was anyway.
So when the Iran-Iraq War broke out in 1981, and Hannah, your boy, Ronnie Reagan, was all getting hyped to sell Saddam chemical weapons.
I can't even handle that as a joke. How could you?
Famous for her love of Ronald Reagan.
I believe in hell simply because of him. Because if there's not one, then nothing makes sense. So anyway, go on. Sorry, I should have just laughed at that, but I can't.
No, it's okay. It's meant to get you upset.
Yeah,
Iranian TV during that war just became filled with images of Iranian soldiers who had gone to war and like death and like martyrs and shit. It's just they took it up like 10 notches. It's basically just like everyone's Instagram feeds today, more or less, as far as like insane stuff that you're just seeing.
Yeah.
But like the 80s Iranian version of that, which is funny because it's kind of like we've always had an algorithm that controls us no matter where we go or what we see.
Yeah.
Right.
And shall we say it was not uplifting. It was not very positive.
Oh, man. I remember being a kid and like being in my parents' library, and they would have all these books like At War with Humanity, and like it'd be all these books like about the revolution or about the Iran-Iraq War, and on the covers it's just like dead bodies. I remember it was traumatic. There was like they didn't shy away from it, that's for sure. Like there was a lot of martyrdom during that time, and there's a lot of people who did not want to forget it, which I can't. I don't think that's the wrong thing. I don't know if that's the wrong thing, but it probably did shape us in a weird way growing up.
Yeah, that's very cultural too. I mean, they still do that essentially. They still are doing that with all the protests that have happened over the past couple of years, and even back in 2009. It's always like people become martyrs very quickly, and those images of people who are bloody become very like embedded into the public image. But prior to the revolution, this was not so much the case. It wasn't like TV, meaning like it wasn't all death and destruction and martyrdom. It was like, say what you will about the Shah's regime, but TV was just very different. There were shows and singing and dancing and, not a bunch of future dead bodies declaring their love of the state. And because
Dang, my
Iran,
favorite.
Yeah, right. A bunch of cadavers. And but because Iran seemed to be in a sort of fugue state during those years, all they got was horror. So, depressed yet?
Yeah.
Already, of course.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's the point.
We were ahead of the game in doom scrolling.
Yeah.
That was kind of like our thing.
That's true.
News was doom scrolling in Iran, and that's how we grew up.
Wow.
So this is the context of the 80s. So enter Mohammad Khordadian, our boy.
Okay.
Khordadian grew up loving dance and pursued it by any means necessary. He bluffed his way into the Ramsar youth camp, joining a folklore troupe, and eventually dancing at the prestigious Rudaki Opera House. This is before the revolution.
Yeah.
And there he met an English ballerina named Jane Baini, who was performing in a staging of Swan Lake for the Shah. And Jane and Khordadian fell in love, sort of, because Khordadian is gay. And from what I tell at the time, he was like kind of, but not really. He was like out-ish because, even in pre-revolutionary Iran, it wasn't like very accepted and it wasn't like a super safe thing to do. So he was kind of like, well, they really respected each other. They both loved dance. They got along. Certainly there was a love of sorts in terms of like, a kindred spirit kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she loves dancing. So he's like, let's do this shit. And they got married. And by the time he's around 24 years old is when the revolution begins. And like many people, they fled Iran. And the first place they go to is London. And they danced for a while. Apparently there was a nightclub in Kensington that had like Iran night or something or other. And they danced there for a little while.
In Kensington?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is probably something we don't have the answer to, and I'm not sure if it makes much of a difference, but did she know he was gay and this was just like a marriage of convenience, or was he not out at that time even to her?
I think from what I understand, from what I was reading, it seemed like it wasn't like out at that time when they got married, but it was like it sort of came to reveal itself. And actually, by the time they get to Los Angeles, which was the next part of the story, they do actually split by the time they get to the States. But amicably. Like they're still very, on good terms. She actually ended up writing a book. It was like a memoir about them, about her experiences with him, which I just found like last night when I was continuing to do the research. I kind of wish I had gotten a chance to thumb through it, but very good terms. She was there was no animosity, nothing bad. It wasn't like a crazy secret, but I think on some level she just sort of was like, enamored by his moves, so to speak, and his ability and his passion and his love for it. And so she was sort of like, fell into it. But I guess, I don't think she married him outwardly knowing that he was gay, but I think maybe she had a sense. I'm not sure.
I mean, if she's a dancer, like that is where, even back like hundreds and hundreds of years ago, if you were gay, that's where you needed to go, like theater or dance, because you could be out among those people pretty easily. So maybe she did, or maybe they were just like best friends or something, and she was like, let's get married.
I think that's
I like you a lot.
Case.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And it was the smart move for him to, in terms of socially, is to be like, well, it's probably better off to be married than to be an out gay man in Iran.
Definitely. Maybe she was a lesbian.
Yeah.
And his moves, I mean, like, if you see his dance moves, like I'm watching on this video you sent, like even when Persian men dance, there is something that I really enjoy about it, which is that it's not your typical masculine dancing.
Yeah.
It does have a lot of feminine vibe to it. It's kind of like masculine and feminine. I don't know how you define those terms, but it's not traditionally masculine, which is something I really dig about it. Or like how Western.
That's what it's like, the Western view of masculine
dancing. Yeah. It's not like breakdancing, or I don't know what a masculine dance would be, but there are like feminine components to it, which is really something I love about Persian dancing. And his is like particularly pronounced. So I could see why he was like, I have to protect myself and have this beard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, so like I said, and after the revolution, they go to London, and then eventually he and his wife arrive in Los Angeles. And by the time they get there, like they split. And so Khordadian is living in LA, and he's looking to reinvent himself. This is the early 80s. And at that time, after the revolution, many Iranian artists who fled to the United States eventually kind of formed these little exile communities of like, these kind of diaspora pockets. We were talking about Northern California versus Southern California Iranians. So I think the biggest collection of the diaspora in the States is in Los Angeles specifically, but I think the other one is probably San Jose, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's pretty high, but nothing beats Tehrangeles, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Tehrangeles, exactly. So
the
Westwood area, Tehrangeles. So these exiles start producing TV programs that came to Iran secretly on videotapes with a delay of several months, because don't forget, like, this is the era of VHS. So all these people who fled started making their own whatever. So it's almost like a black market, like underground thing, which is still very much a scene in Iran today, but not for videotapes. It's for other stuff.
Yeah.
And singers from before the Islamic Revolution who had fled sang on these VHS tapes and sort of continued their careers, and a few new faces appeared among them. And of course, we know who we're talking about. If you've seen any of the videos from this era, it's like super soft lighting. It's like somebody just on a stage singing. It kind of looks like half like a disco music video, half like 80s Sears,
like pillars,
like
weird pillars in the background for no particular reason. It's a very
pillars.
Persian thing, like a Persian thing with like to have pillars in the background. It's very, I don't know, Greek. I don't know why we do that, but it's something ancient Greek. Sorry. We don't want to get into that. That's the whole thing.
We don't.
No, I know. I've learned my lesson.
So I think this one's really fun. This is a Haide music video from, I'm assuming it was filmed in the 80s. Haide, who is a phenomenal singer, a very important figure in Iranian pop culture, kind of took the classic folk singing and integrated it into like pop songs. But this is like the kind of thing I always think of just like the hair and the makeup and like the lighting and if you watch this little clip that again we'll show on the screen.
Oh yeah.
So Persian.
That hair.
Holy hell. It is so
that
Persian.
Hair.
So Persian, it's so 80s.
It's super 80s. It's iconic.
But I love how she's looking at the camera like
it's just hair is what we call it in Farsi. Like she's just like
what does that mean?
It's kind of like, I don't know how you explain hair in English. I don't know if there's a word for it.
I don't either. I don't have the vocabulary. Like, I know tarof.
Has she started singing yet?
No.
There's probably like a whole it's a song,
interlude.
so there's like a whole musical interlude. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I'd like her to start singing.
It's so great. It's like they shot this like at the Sears where you go for your photos, your family awkward 80s family photos. It's like they turned it into a film studio.
So I wanted to take a second. So this is sort of the crux of it, which I thought was interesting, because I had not thought about this since like I was a kid. And I've come to appreciate this more as an adult. And, when you were little, my mom would play this shit on TV. And it would be
Yeah.
like, ugh, this is the worst. Like, why do we have to watch it? I hate all these music videos and they're terrible. And for some reason, it was like the only thing she would play it like full blast in the house.
Yeah. Just clinging to like their culture and like being surrounded by like MTV and all this other stuff that was disregarding the Persian culture. They would cling to it so tight.
Yeah.
My family, they put it Black Cats. You remember Black Cats?
Yeah.
It was like a Persian rock. It was a Persian rock group. It was
cool.
So it's rough to hear. We should probably play it.
It's very cheesy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That kind of rock group.
Yeah.
They were, I don't even know how to explain them. They're like a boy band, but looked like they were in their 50s, I think is what I remember them as. Who didn't reunite. It was just like they started a boy band in their 50s. It was really strange.
It is still like going. There's like Black Cats now with some of the same members, and some young people are brought in.
I guess it's like Menudo a little bit.
It's kind of like Menudo. Both instruments. They play instruments.
Yeah.
And they would sing
they
in
might have all
English,
been like
which is the hard
32
part.
at that time, but I don't know. They seemed like they were in their 50s when I was a kid.
Did not age like we do now. 35-year-olds were rough.
Oh yeah, it's a very it doesn't hold up. But the thing about Persian music is, I mean, like these singers like Hayde and Gugush, these very famous pop singers. I just never got into Persian pop music. It was always like 10 years behind American pop music, and I didn't even like American pop music. So to me, I just never like felt it. But like, there's such great Persian music out there. There's like the classical sitar stuff, like Hossein Alizadeh. I'm like super into. It's beautiful, and now you can actually find great rock groups in Iran who are trying to do different things, like Radio Tehran, who are doing really interesting, fun stuff. It's all underground sort of stuff.
Cool.
But there's movies they made about it, like No One Knows About Black Cats or something like that is the name of or something like that. No One Knows About Persian Cats. And there is a huge underground Persian music scene. That stuff is awesome, but it was never the stuff we heard on these things. I wish it was, because I probably would have been much more into it. You know what I mean? As like a kid in the 80s, like this stuff was hard to like really get into. The stuff our parents liked.
I think you made an excellent point, and that was the next thing I was going to try and expand on too. And I think you really hit the nail on the head, which is like, now that I have a fully formed frontal lobe, it's like weirdly, I'm sympathetic and I have like a little bit more empathy. I'm like, it's actually kind of emotionally, like it's a little bit sad when you think about it. It's very tragic. Yeah. It's like this country that you grew up in and loved has collapsed. There's all these like insane horror stories of how people had to escape, and you come to America who absolutely does not like you, and not just because of like your sort of run-of-the-mill racism, but also the hostage crisis that had just happened a couple of years ago. So it's like you got a target on your back, and on top of all of that, all you're seeing on the news is what's left of your homeland being destroyed by this Iran-Iraq war, and it's just like awful. And so there is something kind of I don't know that much about all the personalities that came to LA in that time, but there's something kind of great, I think, in terms of all these people being like, well, shit, what are we going to do? We're just going to have to create our way through this, and they'll record new songs and they'll make new music. Like they're doing the best they could within the circumstances that they found themselves in, and
preserving what they lost in a way.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And to your point, like it seemed like 10 years behind, but that's probably the last time that they were like emotionally stable and not experiencing. I don't know if any of us are ever emotionally stable, but things seem stable in a way where they could actually like relax.
And now it's funny too, because like a Gugush song, Gugush Hannah was like this very famous. She was like our Lady Gaga, Taylor Swift,
Lady Gugush,
Lady Gugush. Yeah,
Lady Gugush.
I'm familiar with her. Yeah, because of Gaga. Yeah,
right. And so when I hear her come on, I'm always like, it's like nice now. I'm like, it is like
you
nostalgic.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she is a very talented. She had a great voice, so she was
fantastic. Yeah.
And
so in this climate, Khordadian decides to kind of go for it. Remember, he's in LA now. He's single. Things are terrible everywhere else, and so he's just like, screw it. And his first video taped was called Persian Workout and Dance Lesson No. 1, and it was released in the early 80s by Parse Video, which was a San Fernando Valley-based clearinghouse for Iranian music and film. And he wasn't really happy with the result. So in 1987, he released Persian Dance No. 2, and that becomes the one that's like, iconic. Like this becomes the meme. And in it, so for people who are listening, in it, he's wearing this like iconic referee like tank top.
Yeah,
and
it's
like
exactly
black
what it is.
leggings with like what are the socks called? The
Tube socks.
Leotards or
leotard. Well, no, I guess he's wearing the leotard with the leggings on top of it.
Yeah.
And he's kind of got this like short Jerry curl type hair, and you know, hairy like a normal Persian man like myself.
yeah, and like, but don't leave me out of this.
Yeah, go ahead.
If the listener, I mean, in terms of hairiness, I don't want you to, just because you have a beard doesn't mean you're hairier than me. It just means you're outwardly hairier than me. Okay, let's not
Should
make
we
it
have a contest right now?
Shirts off party, yeah.
Shirts off now. Come
What
on.
kind of show do we want to make this?
Yeah, right.
So for listeners who would, they want to know exactly what we're talking about, all you have to do is on your phone, if you have Twitter, is just put into the GIFs Persian, and he's like the first thing that pops up.
Oh, is he the first one?
He's literally the first thing that pops up. It's like him, the Spanish guy who played Xerxes in 300. So it's like those are like the first things that pop up. And we can talk about 300 for weeks. I could talk about that, but so he is, you will recognize him. I think even people who are not Persian will probably recognize his pictures.
You might have seen it. Yeah. So in this video, he's joined by a team of 3 women and 2 men who are also wearing crazy 80s workout gear. And he leads them in a lesson of classic Iranian dancing. And he'll say stuff like, my message is that dance is not just for perfect people and it's time to have a good time. And it's very like
good message, man. Good message. I'm on board. Yeah.
Yeah. It is time to have a good time.
It's time to have a good time. And so this is still kind of true today, but so Kaveh, you had touched upon this earlier, but it was at least in like popular culture in terms of like something like this, it was unheard of that a man was going to lead a dance class, particularly in the 80s, particularly like as immigrants that came to this country. And, you know, you have men who dance, like you said, certainly like in parties, but not necessarily like public figures who were dancers. That wasn't really a thing. I think there was a dancer from before. Her name was Jamila was her stage name. She introduced belly dancing and all this stuff into like popular running culture, but there were no dudes who did this. Khordadian broke like this massive taboo for Iranian men by just being like, screw it, I'm going to be here. What have I got to lose?
I love dancing.
And he loves dancing. And your analog today in terms of looking back at it would probably be like Richard Simmons maybe. But he says, his quote is, I owe a lot to Jane Fonda. That's most of what he was modeling himself after, because it had a very different vibe from Richard Simmons. Richard Simmons was very much like kind of self-help, like emotional, like letting it all out. This is more like, we're just here to have fun and like get in shape and have a good time. And he was also one of the first people in Iranian culture to kind of take, I should say Iranian popular culture, to take a cue from America. And he was sort of assimilating in a way by taking that Jane Fonda template and then applying it to something that was from back home, which was this cultural dance.
It's a really cool mashup of the two things, because you can see equal amounts of both. It's like, oh, this is very 80s, but also like fully something I don't recognize from myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so you might tell us, but I'm really fascinated to know what happened to him. Is he still around?
Yes, I will explain.
Okay.
I'll keep going. So suddenly he becomes like this darling of the Iranian diaspora, and his dance instruction videos could be found in every home as he taught Iranian dance steps to the post-revolutionary generation through secret videotapes. And these tapes made it back to Iran, where it circulated on the country's black market once again. And so by 1988, basically like every middle-class family in Iran also had a copy, in addition to everybody that was in the States that saw it.
That's awesome.
That's
subversive.
Cool.
Yeah, exactly. So he kind of becomes like this weird, like, they call him like maybe like a minister of happiness.
Oh.
And
wow, what a great name. What a dope name.
On a resume.
Yeah, so like it's the end of the Iran-Iraq War. Everyone's miserable. Shit sucks. Like the country's been overthrown, and then it got immediately into this like 8-year war. Everyone hated everything. And people wanted to let loose after all that sadness. And suddenly there's this dude who's just like, hey, we're just here to have a good time and dance around and like whatever, screw it. And it just sort of takes off.
Yeah.
And he also kind of reminds people of like, hey, this is the kind of shit we used to really love before all this terrible shit happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like an act of defiance. It's not even just dancing. It's like I'm going to do this despite everything.
It's punk rock. I absolutely love it.
Absolutely.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's like revolutionary. It's cool.
Again, it's funny to me because like we just grew up kind of laughing at how like silly it was, and now I look at it and I'm like, oh, I guess it is like punk rockish. Like the balls it would take to do some shit like this.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? And so, Kava, to your question, you're probably thinking, awesome, everything turned out great for him, right?
No, because I also understand how the world works.
Yeah, because this is Iran. That's not how it goes.
Right. Yeah.
We're not allowed to experience joy.
No,
only sad.
Yeah. We get joy in small increments, and we
that's
suck
what the movies
air
tell
out of
me,
those
at
moments.
least.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, we have to be punished for
movies tell me
experiencing
everyone's
joy.
really sad over there.
This is I don't know if it's not true.
He's like, things are fine. He's like kind of doing his thing in LA for a while. And then I think around 2002, his mother passes away and she's still in Iran. And he goes back to sort of see family and deal with it, all that. As he's trying to leave, I think it's like July of that year. Classic tale, as old as time that everyone always gets. As soon as you're trying to leave Iran, that's when they come and they start questioning you. And they're like, what's your deal? What have you been doing here? Blah, 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 blah. And then
like he's a spy. He's going to dance his way into espionage and secrets.
Exactly.
Fools.
The guy who does the dancing class is clearly the person who's going to be the spy.
Yeah.
Well, they used to do that. What was that one spy that
White Knight? Wait, no, what was
Matahari? Matahari, that spy
in
World War II. She was a dancer, and she was also a spy and like killed people. Anyway, different
that's
tab.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
I want to see that. There's a movie with Mikhail Baryshnikov who was like a spy and he danced. I remember.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Or he was like they're trying to get him out of the country. I don't know. The 80s were wild, man. I don't remember much. It's all
very
a blur.
much so.
Yeah.
He was arrested and convicted of, quote, promoting depravity and corruption among the youth through his dance videotapes.
From the 80s.
Right. This
Yes.
is 2002. Okay.
Yeah. 20 years later. So he was initially given a 10-year prison sentence that was suspended pending good behavior, but he was barred for... So I'm unclear about this. It seems like they reversed it. I don't quite understand, but... Initially, what it said was that he was barred for giving dance lessons from life, even outside of Iran, and banned from attending weddings and other public celebrations for 3 years. I don't think that's still the case because I've seen videos of him doing stuff. So I don't.
What's funny is that even the Iranian government was like, okay, this will be really unpopular if we actually put him in prison.
Ban him. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And they notoriously don't care because they're terrible people. Like the fact that even they were like, it's not a good idea. We should just give him a strict warning because we're so lenient. That's why. Yeah.
Putting it that way, it's like, that's incredible that he didn't get imprisoned.
Yeah, and also to your point, it's interesting that like his homosexuality didn't come up in any kind of like sentencing, which is something that they would have. I think they're just sort of. Again, I don't know. Like you said, it's all speculation, but they're probably just like, this is too much of an important public figure.
Yeah, because the Iranian government at the time, who was president then? It was Ahmadinejad, right?
I think 2002 was still Khatami, if I'm not mistaken. I might be off.
I feel like either way, they were just going to be like, no, he can't be gay. He's a Persian man. It's not.
We don't have those here.
We don't have those. Yeah, so that's probably why they didn't bring it up. They didn't want to acknowledge that one of our most famous, exports could be gay.
Yeah. But eventually he was able to get out, and now he splits his time. I think they said he lives in Turkey. So he's kind of splits his time between Turkey and LA, and he continues to be like an icon of the LGBTQ community outside of Iran.
Yeah, so right on.
He's a little bit older. He's not quite dancing, and he does, like most of us, the muscles and the bones don't quite work the same way that they used to. But they're still there, so he's still kicking.
That's
he hasn't gone away quite yet. Yeah,
I would love to see if he has like an event ever does anything sort of locally in LA. I bet you.
Oh yeah.
So pull a crowd.
Yeah, something will probably come up at some point. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool. That's very cool.
What a cool
guy.
guy.
That's my tab. Yeah.
Wow. That's really nice to see because I see him all the time.
Yeah.
I see him all the time in memes and GIFs. So it's really nice to have some context for him now. Yeah.
Yeah. I love his outfit. That's a
It's the
Halloween
best.
costume right there.
Well, I've been saying this for a long time. I'm like, I keep telling Sarah,
You
I'm
got to
gonna
do it.
You should do it because in LA,
you could, yeah.
people will recognize it. If I do
People
it here,
might recognize. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
they're gonna think I'm
Look
just
out.
like sort of an effeminate referee or something. They won't know like what the
Referee of
outfit
gay
is.
soccer.
Yeah, they won't get it. You know.
Yeah. You should though. You should dress up as him.
You know,
agree.
if we're ever hanging out in Halloween together, I say we all go as in that
The whole
outfit.
crew.
The whole crew.
I
I'd
agree.
love to wear a
500 open tabs.
a sleeveless referee outfit.
Exactly.
Would look great on me.
I-
Amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my
So
tab.
good luck.
Hannah, what do you got?
Well, okay. That's awesome. Thank you. Mine is one that I have started to almost do for multiple episodes, but then
Okay.
have always just been like, no, I'll save it for a mini tab. And so now I'm finally doing it. And it is something called the Tiffany Problem.
Oof.
Have you heard of the Tiffany Problem?
I have not. I'm assuming
yes.
it's related to the Tiffany store.
Yeah, I was going to say it's
Kind
probably
of.
related to Donald Trump and not liking his daughter. But
He-
That's what he
he's
calls
a
her,
problem.
The Tiffany problem.
And he's trying to eradicate her. Yeah.
yeah,
Sorry, that was anyway. So it's the Tiffany Problem, and the phenomena known as the Tiffany Problem is
okay.
when someone when history doesn't match our perception of reality. So typically in movies and entertainment, and they call it the Tiffany Problem because the name Tiffany has been used since the year, I think 1100, as a feminine name. It's like if you can't, so it's pretty much it's like you can't name a character Tiffany because it'll immediately pull people right out of the story that you're writing. And
Oh,
so yeah, if you're reading like a medieval knight, like there's a medieval knight and he meets a chick named Tiffany, like a peasant named Tiffany, it's like, this isn't medieval. Immediately it ruins it. It kind of like, and so this is just everything about it is
that's how I feel about Dune because they're like it's Paul
Paul.
and Jessica.
I literally
Duncan.
wrote
Jessica and Paul.
I wrote that as an example because when I watched Dune, I was like, Paul?
Paul works. It's the Duncan, Idaho works.
It's the
a lot
Duncan,
of people
Idaho.
Duncan,
like-
Idaho.
But again, that's kind of cool too. You know, it's like I
And
kinda
if
like
they do
that's
it
weird.
well, then you're like, oh, I'm back into the world. Which is like, I think Game of Thrones does it okay. Like, his name's Ned. And it's like,
Yeah,
Ned?
yeah.
Flanders?
Yeah, that's true.
No.
Yeah, that's true.
He's a benevolent ruler named Ned Stark. And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It's
but
better.
anyway.
I mean, if they had done like Chad Lannister, that would have been cool.
Chad Lannister!
That would have been a good one.
Yeah. Oh, we should rewrite it.
Yeah, here we go.
do
Shot for
it.
shot
Chad,
remake.
Beverly.
Bev-
Bev.
Beverly Stark.
Beverly Stark.
Yeah.
Oh, Beverly Targaryen for sure.
That's a Beverly
Yeah.
name. Yeah.
Tiffany Targaryen is good. Okay.
Tiff,
Yeah.
Tiffany Targaryen. I love it.
Tiff Targaryen. I'm going to do a little bit about the name Tiffany because it's actually pretty crazy. It's originally from a Greek name for Theophanes, which is the word for like the Feast of Epiphany in
Ooh,
Catholicism.
okay.
I don't know what it is. Again, Catholic stuff I don't understand. And it started as that, and they started naming girls Theophany or Theophania, or Teophania. So it was kind of like Tiffany, and then it made its way from Greece to France, then to Britain as a last name. And the Tiffany's of Britain then moved to America and opened a jewelry store. And then it was made into a movie. And a few years later, the name just took off. And every girl in the 70s and 80s was named Tiffany. So that's where Tiffany comes from. It's an ancient name that we only associate with like 80s cheerleaders. And
Totally true. I don't see anything but a blonde cheerleader when you say the name Tiffany. It's so deeply embedded, which is weird because the most famous Tiffany is, well, actually, The Breakfast at Tiffany's is her character Tiff. Not named. I never watched it or read the book. Because it's played by that famous actress, right?
Audrey Hepburn.
Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah.
She was
Hepburn,
not a
yeah.
blonde cheerleader.
No.
Yeah.
It's not Tiffany. Tiffany's
When I
not
hear
her
the name
character's
Tiffany, that's the only. Why? Was there
I don't know.
Was there ever a famous Tiffany character in an 80s movie that makes us think Tiffany is the name
No,
of an 80s blonde cheerleader?
I just think that a lot of like white middle class American families in the 60s or 70s and 80s were like, let's name our blonde child Tiffany. And then it just like, you just start associating it with that. Like all Sarahs play clarinet.
Next time I meet a Tiffany, I'm going to call her
Not mine.
Theophanes. That's what I'm going to do.
Call her Theophania. Hang on. Theophania. But there was an
Theophanes probably
empress.
male. Yeah.
Yeah, there was an Empress Theophania, and she was like,
Nice.
Yeah. So this term was coined by science fiction and fantasy author Joe Walton in 2008. And she was doing an interview where she was like, yeah, some things I just can't publish because no one would believe it. It's too bizarre to be fiction. And she went on to say that Tiffany is a real attested medieval name, and you cannot give it as a name to a character in a historical or fantasy setting because it looks too horribly modern. And so it's actually become a trope in like film and TV where it's like, we have the Tiffany problem here. We can't. So for example, denim. Denim was invented in 1500 and something in France in a place called Nîmes, France.
Nîmes.
Yeah, from Nîmes. And denim was used by peasants for years, hundreds of years before it became like associated with what we have today. But you can't put a peasant in denim in a movie.
Right.
Like, could you imagine? Just like some peasant wearing denim? Like, no way.
Yeah.
So that right there is a Tiffany problem where it's like we have to change history in order for people to believe.
Here is your pig fat.
I've slaughtered the pig for Lord Levi. Yeah, exactly.
To match our expectations. We have to change things to make them less realistic to match our expectations.
Match our expectations. And I was like blown away by this. And so I was like, well, I started thinking of some on my own. So here's the ones I thought of off the bat without looking anything up. Denim.
All right.
The Middle Ages being gray and bleak. How there's always films, if it's in the Middle Ages, there's like a filter that's like sad plague filter, you know, where it's like everyone's dreary.
It's like the Persian filter is what we talk about.
Yeah, exactly. Anytime there's a Middle East, there's like the scene opens with like someone. You're right. The Middle East yodeling
from the desert rising up. Yeah. Same with like Middle Ages. It's like gray. Everyone's got to have dirty faces and teeth, and it's like when in actuality they're relatively tidy. Like people would wash their face and hands every day. There was bright colors in their clothing. But if you have a peasant wearing like bright red, you associate that with like, someone rich.
Can't have hot pink peasants. Well, hot pink denim jacket.
That's another thing. Peasants. Some people would wear pink in like 1600, and it's like you can't put that in a movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. I could see that being a problem. Yeah.
Huge problem.
It would take me out of it. Yeah.
Immediately, and like oh, that person's wearing pink. Oh, weirdly enough, a very accurate movie for like language is The Mummy. Apparently, they like got ancient Egypt like the language spot on, or Coptic Egyptian. Anyway, everything else about the movie was not. But anyway. So,
all the other casual racism that they threw into that movie, like
casting white people as Egyptians, all that,
we're very used to that.
Oh, I can imagine. Another one I thought of was guns, and how when you shoot a gun, it's like mind-numbingly loud. Like I don't know if you've ever been near a gunshot, but it rings in your ears for like.
Yeah, you have to wear noise-canceling headphones when you go to a gun range.
You do,
and shoot, and they're very, very loud.
Very loud. Yeah. And so in movies, like all the spy movies, you're like, oh, we have this plot device called a silencer that we stick on these guns, and those don't exist. They exist, but they barely do anything. They just make it so you don't lose your hearing. It's still extremely loud.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But we can't have a spy movie where James Bond is like loudly shooting a gun over and over. So it's like... take us out of it.
Yeah, you get hearing loss from that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one I thought of was, Paul and Jessica from Dune, where it's like, that's not right. Why'd you pick Jessica?
Jess. Yeah.
And then also I thought of Roman and Greek statues used to be painted almost like fluorescent colors. So
no way. I did not know that.
Yeah. So all their buildings, like the ones we built, like the White House to look like, those are without the paint. So like back in the day, those buildings would be like fluorescent and bright colors and huge designs and patterns and
just gaudy
and
very Persian, very Persian,
a little bit ugly.
No, we have a lot of pillars again.
Yeah, no, it's also very ugly in Persian culture.
There's parts of it that are not that pretty. Yeah, we can acknowledge there's some great stuff and some problematic aspects. Sure.
Yeah.
But those Greek statues, the pupils were painted on.
Yeah.
And they looked terrifying. I'll have to send you one of those. So those are the ones that I thought of off the top of my head. And then I was like, well, what else? Because there's got to be more. And I went down a Reddit hole. because there's not a Wikipedia page that like tells me everything, and I'm not used to that. So I was like, okay, I gotta go find some more. And Reddit brought up that Braveheart is the perfect example. The movie Braveheart,
right,
is the perfect example of the Tiffany problem, because we would not believe William Wallace if he were wearing like the same uniform as the English, because that's pretty much what he did. They all wore similar uniform or similar armor, and helmets, and you couldn't see the faces, and they didn't wear the blue paint. That was like ancient Picts or Druids or whatever. He would have just looked like a regular medieval dude, and that's not fun.
Yeah, it's a lot more like, looks a little bit more barbaric and fun.
Yeah.
And there's that contrast you have to have for TV. Yeah, I get it.
Right, and like kilts didn't exist, but they're like, we have to put these guys in kilts because Scottish. Yeah, they're Scottish. That's what they do.
Yeah.
So there's like that
When
stuff
did
where
kilts
it's like,
come along?
you know, in the 1700s ish, when they started.
Okay, so
like
a few hundred
How
years
do you
later.
know that? How do you know that?
I wish I knew. I wish I knew how I knew.
Yeah.
I don't know. But no, they were actually from like they always had the tartan pattern, you know, like the flannel looking stuff. Plaid. That was always kind of there, but then kilts themselves came from a specific region of Scotland, the Highlands, and they were kind of unconquered by the British for a long time, and so they had their own little thing. But like where William Wallace was, there weren't.
Right.
No
right.
kilts.
Yeah.
Also, I found out there's kilts in Ireland and Wales. Doesn't matter. Okay, so sounds in space. So like
Right.
you wouldn't hear anything. It would just be completely silent. But that would make the worst movie.
Yeah.
Or like Gravity or whatever it was. That was a fine movie. But they did a good job being quiet in space.
I mean, if it's done right, it could be really eerie. You know?
Yeah,
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
But like if you're firing like a space laser and it's completely silent, it's like, oh,
Boring.
you got to add some
Really
like
boring.
explosions or like
Yeah, you got to put a
fire.
little oomph into it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, where would we be without the pew pew? It's like
Pew pew pew.
that's
Yeah.
part of our culture. You can't take that away from us. It's part of our
They're
culture.
films. They're not They're movies. They're blockbuster movies. They're not documentaries.
You guys saw that in this recent Star Wars TV show, The Acolyte? Like people were losing their minds about the fact. So I only watched the first episode, but online people were losing their minds about all the expected things you would think, like, oh, why is Disney's gone woke? They have like
Because
people of
of
color,
woke.
In space.
in like
Star Wars is not about the underdogs.
It's about white people in space. Okay.
Not about politics. But the people were losing their minds over the fact that there was like a fire on a ship, and like in the beginning, like someone's putting a fire out. They're like, "There's no fires in space." I mean, of course, there's no Jedis either in space, but like people were really upset about it.
They were, and you know what? I will say I used to be that kind of person when it came to like anything medieval. I was insufferable, where it's like they wouldn't have that. They wouldn't say that word.
Yeah.
It's like, just shut up and enjoy it. Like sometimes we just have to make it entertaining, and I learned that over time, where it's like, as long as it feels historic, and as long as it represents that, like I would say, like Braveheart represents Scottish people in a way that we all understand.
Yeah.
It still bothers me.
Yeah, I could see
mind.
that. Yeah. I mean, I would love to be able to watch something and walk away from it feeling like because I don't know that much about like Scottish Highland history and all that. I would love to be able to walk away knowing that the right work had been done, and that like I learned something from the movie.
Right.
But I mean, I heard actually William Wallace was not such a nice guy. Someone tried to convince me of this, that like actually he did a lot of torturing of the people he captured, and the quartering and all that stuff was stuff he did. And I'm like, I don't know.
They were being oppressed. So that's one of those things where it's like,
right.
If the oppressor is doing it versus the oppressed, I don't know. It takes on a little bit of a different tone.
My sister was on a trip through Scotland, and she went to like one of the big battles, and they had a statue of William Wallace.
Oh,
and
yeah.
she was like, oh my God, they did such a good job of finding an actor who looks like him. And the tour guy was like, no. They made
it after.
It was a statue of Mel Gibson?
It's a statue of Mel Gibson, essentially.
Famously Australian, Hannah, don't forget.
That's right.
I'm still not okay with that.
With him being Australian?
I just thought he was American this whole time. It kind of like
Well,
kind of messed with me.
He lived. This is a tab for someday, but he did live between the two, which is why his accent's sort of like a little bit off. It's not quite American. It's not quite Australian.
Yeah, I've just always categorized him as, I don't know.
Other.
Listen,
Just
you're going to be on Twitter
racist?
complaining about the next Mel Gibson movie. Be like, he's not even Australian. There's no fire in space. Like being all pissed about it.
Australian Mel Gibson in space movie. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that new one. So speaking of race, I was also going to say, what a weird lead in.
Oh, no, go on. I'm listening.
I was
My
also going to
interest is
say,
piqued.
there's like movies where you see Africans and Middle Eastern people in European countries, and people make a big fit about it. They're like, that doesn't make any sense. And it's like, bro, yes, it does. It was an open trade. Like, it was like, there
Who do
were
you think
ships
brought
coming.
England out of the Dark Ages. It was the
Right.
Middle East. It was the trade routes.
It was.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
It helped the economy of all these European countries to open up their trade to, the Middle East and Asia. And so, like, there was definitely, especially there were African people living in England in the 15 and 1600s, working at the palace, working among the people. Like, it would not be, if somebody was walking around town in London and they saw, like, an African person, they'd be like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And,
right,
right.
Right.
It was never anything like,
They weren't like, this is woke.
Yeah,
We've
it's
gone
like,
woke.
But it's more like, oh, I wonder where he's coming in from, or
Right, yeah.
that's it was
Fun fact: there was also Europeans in the Middle East. Spoiler
oh
alert.
yeah,
Right,
and Africa, famous, infamously.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But yeah, exactly. Like there was a lot more cultural like crossovers than we think. So people get so upset about it. And it's like, you guys, come on.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
I don't
the
know.
Tiffany Problem, very cool.
The Tiffany Problem. There's a couple more things. This last one I'm saving because it's about Iran, and here's something that's interesting because as we were saying, like the Middle Eastern filter, where it's like it's a desert and everyone's sad. And
Yeah.
Everyone is
always,
sad, but
everyone's sad everywhere.
for different reasons. It's a cultural sadness.
Yeah, but the food is really good. So
It is
let's
really
focus
good.
on that.
Food's not sad. Well,
No.
Yeah.
I'm sure you probably already know this, but they did have a very early form of air conditioning that worked. So there was these things that they would that are still on buildings today in Iran that are called wind catchers, and they engineered them in this way. This is like 2,000, 3,000 years ago. They engineered them in
I
this
think
way.
it's in Persepolis is where they first popped
Yeah.
up.
And it would pull wind that was coming in the cooler nights, pull it down into the houses below, and it would somehow, I don't know how I explained it, but I don't know how to do engineering. But then it would push the hot air out at a completely different hole in the house and just leave the cold air. And so all through the hot summer days, the houses would stay cool and their water would stay cool. So they would have these aqueducts and like underwater, like they had pipes. They would have this whole system that it would cool the water, which would cool the floors, which would cool the house, which would also cool the people. So it was, and you see like ancient Persia in like 300, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
fun representation.
It's funny because like being Persian, you sort of learn all these little fun facts. But the thing about what they used to call this is a yakchal, which is still the Persian word, I think, for refrigerator.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my
Oh, I didn't know
garbage,
that's what it's
so-
from. Okay, no,
Yeah.
I thought
that's
okay.
cool.
I didn't realize it was literally called the Yakhchal.
But you learn all these little fun facts about like
I
what
didn't know that's where
Iran
it
and the
came
Persian
from.
culture did. And honestly, we were written out of history so much that like only now things are coming to light that like I'm still learning about, and like things that will blow your mind. Like Google the origin of pizza. This is a very controversial topic.
Oh, you guys got pizza too, huh?
Yes, like the first one was from the Achaemenid Empire. It was soldiers out in the field. They would have like two like poles. They'd put like a shield on top of it, and they would cook some bread with some like cheese and feta cheese and dates and stuff. And that was like the first pizza. Look up the origin of noodles. We used to think it would come from China. It actually turns out it probably went from the Persian Empire to them or to the Arabs and then to China. So like all these little things. But my favorite of all like these fun little things is the origin of the high heels. High heels were invented by Iranians way back in the day.
Yeah.
That tracks.
From what I've heard.
They actually came originally from Iranian horse soldiers. They were designed to help the Iranian infantrymen and the people who would then get on the horse to like get into the stirrups and connect.
They need to look stylish.
That makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why like cowboy boots have heels.
They had to do a catwalk before they actually were able to ride a horse first.
Yes.
And then they took them, they met like with Louis XIV in France.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Like he saw this whole entourage. He's like, that looks cool. We're going to start wearing those. And they started having everyone wear them. And then it wasn't long before they were like, you know what? This is too hard for us. Only the women will wear them from now on. So but that's how it happened. That's one of my favorite little things about. I don't know if it's Tiffany effect, but it's along the same lines.
If it were portrayed in a movie, then that would count as something that is the Tiffany effect.
Every time I have a Persian in a movie from now on, they're going to be wearing 6-inch stilettos and eating pizza off of a shield that's burning hot.
Taking a pizza out of one of their refrigerators. So the refrigerators you were talking about were also super ancient, and they were built in this in a conical kind of formation where it was able to keep the cool air. It was wild. Go read if you want to go read about like how it actually works. There's all this like science to it, but they could keep ice. I could keep ice unmelted throughout like the summer months.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, let me just say, Hannah, thank you for giving us a shout out. We appreciate that.
Yeah. What?
Why you look so? You're like,
sorry.
What?
When people say thank you, sometimes I get defensive. I don't know why.
That's awesome.
I was attacking you, but no, I was saying thank you for giving us the Persian shout out. That's very kind of you.
I
the Persian inclusion.
thought it was really interesting. And there's tons of these. So, and one more thing, it's not just on TV. Here's another one that I thought was fascinating: is when Apple rolled out the shuffle feature on iPhone and iTunes. They used a true randomized formula, and then everyone's like, dude, this isn't even actually that random. Like the same songs keep playing next to each other, and and when really it was random, but it didn't seem random,
right?
And so they reprogrammed it to feel more random when really it wasn't.
Weird. Wow.
They were just trying to like separate people's expectations.
So,
cool. So it's not actually random, it's just made to feel random, because truly random, we could get like brand the same songs over and over,
yeah, you could
by chance.
And
so that's the Tiffany effect. And can you guys think of anything off the top of your head that you would think would be like something like that?
So much of the Persian culture stuff that we talked about as depicted in Hollywood. You know,
we're not terrorists, surprisingly. Yeah,
exactly.
They're like in order to soothe the Western mind, every Persian person needs to be portrayed as a terrorist who wants to blow everything up. Believe it or not, that's not true.
What?
It is hard. It is hard for, I think, Hollywood in general to know how to depict Middle Eastern people or Persian people in film. Like, because we can run a pretty wide gambit in how we look. Like, you know, my mom's side of the family, it has like blue eyes and very fair, and my brother is on sort of the other end of the spectrum, and even within our own family, we have that. So it's very hard for Hollywood to do that. I mean, that's why they typically they'll have a TV show, and it's not an Iranian actor playing an Iranian. They'll find like an Indian actor, because they're like, this is what people expect. This is what people expect us to look
there
like.
There it is.
Yeah.
Well,
man, this has turned into the Iranian episode of this podcast.
I was going to say, I was like, this is for sure going to mostly be about it.
I'm not even that Persian, which is the funny part.
What are you talking about?
I'm not even that Persian, which is like the funny part, It's like, but you put two kaves together, this is what happens.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yep.
Well, thank you for the Tiffany effect. That's wonderful. And now we've come to our favorite part of the show, which is when we get to destroy our tabs. So we need to figure out, Kaveh, do you have any suggestions of a fun sound effect that we can use to kill them?
Do you have a kersplat?
A good, solid, classic kersplat?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Guest says classic kersplat. Let's do it. Kaveh, you want to lead the countdown from 3?
Okay. On 3, 2, 1. Kersplat.
Kersplat. Beautiful.
Okay,
so
excellent.
Yeah, there we go.
They're gone. Moving along to listener emails. Hannah, I'm going to go first.
Yep.
So our first email is Julie from Ayrshire, Scotland. Funny enough.
Oh, I think it's
Yeah.
Ayrshire, but it's whatever.
Ayrshire, I'm sorry. Ayrshire, Ayrshire.
Don't look. We'll just edit this out. 'Cause I'm probably wrong.
Ayrshire or Ayrshire.
I mean, I know it's not Ayrshire.
It's the Shire, okay?
Oh, there we go.
This is from The Lord of the Rings. It's from the Shire, Scotland. Hi, Hannah and Kaveh. Your continued request for listeners to write in finally got to me. So here's my tab. Bog bodies.
I love bodies.
I know you do.
Oh, dude, have you ever seen one in real life?
In real life, no.
Oh,
A
they're
what?
so a bog body. You'll hear. You'll hear.
They're cadavers who have fallen or been sacrificed into peat bogs and have been amazingly preserved. The oldest is circa 10,000 years old, and due to the cold anaerobic conditions, the bodies get kind of pickled. Have a look at a 2,500-year-old Tolen man being from Denmark's face.
Yeah.
You can see his stubble. Internal organs are also preserved, which means archaeology can learn so much about diet, living conditions from these pickled people, which is a fun phrase. I'm going to send you the link real quick so everybody can see and know what we're talking about.
I think I already have the tab open on Tolen fan because he has a haircut,
Buddy.
a very specific hairstyle. I think
yeah, it's coming back. It's really fashionable.
Anyway, I love bog bodies. Okay, is that the email?
No. So it keeps going.
Okay.
Bog butter has been found in Ireland.
Yeah.
I think they have also used as cold store for dairy products. Doesn't sound particularly palatable, mind you. But although I come from part of the world which has peat bogs, which is West Coast Scotland, don't worry. I'm not planning on any ritual human sacrifice.
Oh.
I've been reading about prehistoric Northern European culture ever since I found a load of worked stone tools on my local beach.
No. Are you?
They're currently with the treasure trove in Edinburgh being studied. Under Scots law, they belong to the crown. Old King Chuck owns all archaeological finds by default in Scotland, even if it's private lands. Keep up the good work. I'm enjoying listening and inevitably opening up more tabs than ever before. I usually just wait until I have so many I get irritated by them and then just close everything at once. Feels good. What a rush. Cheerio for now, Julie.
Wow.
Thank you, Julie.
Julie, so in Ireland at Dublin Trinity College, I think they have a bog body exhibit, and we went and looked at them because you could go in a room and go in a little area where they were, and you could look I got right up close to its face, and it was one of the most wild experiences of my life because I was just looking at this 5,000-year-old, really well preserved corpse. You could see the fingernails, you could see the hair. Anyway.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm looking at the pictures right now, too. They are very well preserved.
Very. You can see, what they ate. I think the Tolen man had, a belly full of berries and nuts or something random.
Nice.
God.
And I mean this. I want to be buried in the bog. I mean it.
You say this every episode, I know.
I mean it. I want someone to roll me down a hill in Ireland and just let me sink into it. And then 5,000 years from now, they're going to be like, this chick only ate Taco Bell.
That's why she's so well preserved.
She's filled with preservatives.
90% sodium.
Yeah. Number 2 comes from TJ from Macomb County, Michigan. And TJ says, hello all. I am submitting a local story about an eccentric and well-liked local man, one who has lived in Macomb County most of his life. A man who seemed to have a lot of rumors, including people who claimed they have been to his house. In 2018, someone did break into his house and stated he would kill the local man. They instead hung out until the police showed up. My tab is about another incident. The time the Secret Service came to his door.
Whoa.
It's Eminem. P.S. Others confirmed his niece and I were in the same intro to Spanish class in high school. Thank you and stay Josie. So I looked at the article and Eminem, the singer, the rapper, wrote a song in 2017 about killing Ivanka Trump and putting her in his trunk.
Oh.
And
okay.
And then the Secret Service raided his house.
Of course they did.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. At least a knock on the door. You'd expect a knock on the door from that.
I don't know if they raided, but they were probably you can't make that joke.
Yeah.
But I just love how I was like, oh, this is about a fun local story. No, it's Eminem.
What? I wonder though, was it the full, like, was that what the song was about, or was there just like one
Just a
line
verse.
in a song?
Yeah.
Okay.
I went and read the song and I was like, oh yeah, that's not great. But it's Eminem. He always talks about murdering women.
Famously was about like his whole the reason he got famous was Stan, right? It was all about like the guy that wanted to murder the guy. Really, if anything, the FBI probably showed up and they're like, listen, bro, that's old hat. You need a new trick.
Yeah.
You need to like, come up with some new shit.
Different?
Yeah. Famously known for helping artists.
Yeah.
Yeah, they love us.
Trying to push careers along.
Right.
Okay.
I'm an illustrator for the FBI.
That would be a fun job.
Yeah.
If you guys have an email that you'd like to share with us, please go ahead and send it to 500opentabs@gmail.com. That's 500opentabs. Give us a little bit of a blurb of what you learned. Include the link. And most importantly, tell us where you're from, especially if you're Eminem, so that we can find out where we have friends. I would like to, I guess we would like to thank Dr. Hoda for joining us on this episode. It was very wonderful to finally have you and to have another Kaveh on the show ask questions. Thank you for teaching us about, what was it? Pig murder?
Pig butchering.
Tortoise slaughter. What was it called?
Tortoise slaughter. The tortoise slaughter scam.
They're so delicious.
Turtle soup.
Apparently they were really good.
Turtle soup?
But no,
turtle.
Thank you. Turtles. Thank you, Kaveh, for coming. Would you like to tell our audience about where they can find you, what you're up to, anything that's coming up, anything that they should know about?
First of all, thank you both so much for having me on the show. This is super fun. This was like, it was such a joy to not only talk to you in real life or sort of real life, Kaveh, but also really nice to meet you too, Hannah.
You too.
And if people don't have enough Kaveh in their ears, you can never get enough. You can listen to my podcast, The House of Pod. You can get it pretty much wherever you get your podcast. It's sort of a humor adjacent look at public health and where it intersects with popular culture, the news, social equity. And sometimes I'll cover just things that are not related, but I really want to talk about like the truth behind the movie 300. And we'll go into topics like that sometimes too. So if you enjoy the show, there's a decent chance you'll also enjoy mine. So give them both, put them both on your listen and be like, okay, it's my Kaveh time. This is we're just gonna do a lot of Kaveh today, and
And you get into like some of the nitty gritty with it too. Like you talk about, like, cause you're an actual doctor. So these are facts coming from a person who actually knows what he's talking about.
Or I have someone who does. Come on. So yes, that's very true.
Yeah.
How do
You're
I
the first
get rid
one
of
ours?
my IBS?
Yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll bring you on. We'll do a whole show about it.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, you'd be surprised, but that's like a lot of the questions I get.
Yeah.
It's a very common question.
It plagues me.
Yeah, it's a problem. It's a problem. Don't let anyone tell you it's not. It is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was really weirdly validating. Thank you.
Yeah.
And where do they find you?
Okay.
On Twitter
where can we
or
find
Instagram
you?
or anything?
So you can also find me on Twitter at the House of Pod. And I'm on like Instagram and Blue Sky and all the other socials, but I don't do that much on them. So if you want to reach out to me or tag me in something, Twitter is probably the best place to find me.
Cool.
All right.
And if you want to find Kaveh 1 and I'm at Hannah Hillam on everything. And
I'm number 2, Kaveh. I'm number 2.
I'm Kaveh Supreme.
Yeah.
I'm the Taco Supreme.
I'm getting Taco Bell after this.
Yes. 500 at 500 Open Tabs is our handle. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter, sort of. Not really. I'm barely on Twitter anymore.
Yeah.
My personal account is at Kaveh Taherian on Twitter that I barely check, but also at PermaFriends on Instagram. At the time of this release, we are 1 week out from San Diego Comic-Con. If you're going to be there, please come see us. Hannah and I are tabling next to each other in Artist Alley, BBO1 and BBO2. Additionally, we will be hosting a panel, which by the time this comes out, we're going to have to announce it. It's Escaping the Algorithm is the name of our panel. We have some awesome guests. Hannah, you want to tell them who's going to be on the panel?
Yeah, so far we have Lindsay Ellis, author and friend of the podcast. We have Holden McNeely of Page 7 and Wizard and the Bruiser podcast. And let's see, Of course, my mind goes blank.
Patrick
right when I have to do
Ballesteros, the
this.
illustrator, who was
Patrick
we love him.
Ballesteros. Yeah, great
and we
illustrator.
also have Daisy Noemi, who helped
From
put
LA Zine Fest.
LA Zine Fest together. It's going to be a really, really interesting conversation. I think we got people from like all walks of life. I think
we're talking about how to build community outside of like algorithmic sources. So.
Yeah, because we're all miserable and we hate being on all the social media platforms and the way they control how we interact with each other. Yeah, so we're all like, how do we actually do this using the internet, but not in the way where it controls us? We want to control it. So as of right now, that's going to be Saturday at 1 p.m. in room 28DE, unless for some reason that's changed, and we will update. Like I said last time, I'm going to be like, blah, 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 so I could just slip the voiceover on top of it. But Saturday, 28DE, 1 p.m. at San Diego Comic-Con. Also, come see us. Also, look for our fans, which literally means fans that are hot, because we're going to be doing
It's hot in there.
It's very hot in there, but we're also doing... Why do I always forget what it's called? I keep calling it
an
Easter egg hunt. Scavenger hunt.
Easter egg hunt.
Nice.
Also Persian. The painting eggs, they did it first.
Come do the Persian Easter egg hunt.
I didn't know that, but I believe it. That sounds right to me.
Westerners were like, this is cool. We're going to paint
bizarre.
eggs. And we're going to make it about Jesus.
Right.
So,
and throw a bunny in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rabbit. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Once again, Kaveh, thank you.
Thank
So
you.
lovely to finally get you on the show.
Guys.
Thank you again for your tab. Wonderful time. A delight. Hope to have you back again soon. And in the meantime, keep it Josie, everybody.
Keep it Josie.
Yes.
That's the thing. That's the thing with our catchphrase. It makes no sense to anybody.
Do it,
but do it.
Yeah, keep it Josie.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
This is never the part I'm good at.
Bye.